welcome to my PatioRoma three-piece wicker set review. I'm going to show you how to assemble this step by step. So if you've just bought this or are thinking of buying it, then please do keep watching, and I hope this video is of use, as by following this guide we'll give you tips and hints as to how to make the assembly of this PatioRoma furniture set as simple as possible. And don't forget, if you do find this video useful, then please do subscribe, and by all means share on social media. Very much appreciated. To speed things up, if you can and you've got one of these, is get a hex driver bit that fits on the bolt here, because it will be much quicker than using the hex driver bits here. Okay, I've just tightened those in finger tight by hand. Now I'm going to loosely use the electric driver there to tighten them up, but I'm not going to tighten them right up, as you still want this thing to have a little bit of movement for ease of assembly. Over the other way, as I said, I've just tightened those bolts reasonably loosely, so for ease of assembly. And we're going to put this on that easy. So we're going to put this on, marry the two bolt holes up there, and we're going to do the same this side, marry the two bolt holes up this side. Just got the two bolts finger tight on there, and then just going to use my hex driver to power that on there. Much easier using one of these electric drivers. I'm going to leave it a little bit loose on there, just so I can easily assemble it. Now, at this stage, we're ready to flip the chair upright with our two sides semi-tightened on the side, and we're going to fit the backrest, because that aligns with the tubes on here. This is the holes on here on either side. Okay, now I've just aligned the top tubes in the seat back here with the tube sticking upright from the sides of the chair on both sides. Now you're looking at it like I am, thinking, that's a horrendous gap there, Richie. But when you look down at the side here, you will also note that there is another hole here. So I'm going to flip the chair over, and we're going to put a bolt through on either side, which is going to pull that up nice and tight. So I'm going to do that next. Now, well, I would like to say one person can assemble this themselves. There is a little bit of spring on here which is causing that tube to pop out. So I'm going to need to lean this top of the back here against something like that wall over there in order to stop it moving when I'm putting the screw in. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to use that with the back resting against there in order that I can push the chair forwards here and line the two holes up on there. As I like every video that I do, I like to say the thing can be assembled by one person, or show you where it can be assembled by one person. This will be handier with two at this stage, but I think I can do it by myself. That is those bolts loosely in. That side pushing out was a slight issue there. Can be done by one person. You're just going to need a bit of patience with it, or you might want to get your children to move away if you're using less than child-friendly language. Not the easiest of jobs, but nonetheless can be done by one person. So I'm now going to tighten all of the bolts up inside that chair. This is the PatioRoma wicker three-piece set. Okay, opening the box, there is obviously some self-assembly required. It appears to have all the tools and all the fixings, including with it, and including the instruction manual on there. So I'm just going to get everything out, lay that on the floor, and then assemble it for you and show you how to do it step by step. And just before I start that, I would say, if you find this video useful, then please do subscribe for many more great videos. Well, first things first, what have you got contained here? This is our set fixtures and fittings kit, and little Allen keys to put the thing together with. Moving on down, we have the PatioRoma synthetic rattan cafe set. As I said, it's like a synthetic wicker look to it. Details all the parts in here and all the assembly, but I'm going to go through it step by step right now. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is remove the two cushions, keeping the plastic on those, and put those safely out of the way in case it rains while I'm assembling. Okay, now I've laid everything out in logical order. So I've got each pair of parts alongside each pair of parts. I would recommend that you do the same to make life much easier. First thing I'm going to do, remove the plastic from there, then carry on reading the instructions. Boxed everything, and I've taken it out. These are the actual seats themselves. I'm going to put it in more logical order, which I'm going to explain in a minute. There's a left and a right side of the chair, a left and a right side of the chair, and the backs of the chair. Now I'm going to put it in a more logical order. Okay, now with each chair, by the way, the tabletop is in that box. I'm going to assemble that last of all. Each chair is laid out in logical order. You will notice I've got the two sides, the back, and the base unit. Our fixing's ready. You will note on here, I wasn't quite sure whether there was a washer for every screw, so what I've done is put them down in pairs, and sure enough, there is a washer for every screw. I would recommend threading the washers onto the screws before you start, and leave them on the side so they're nice and easy, ready to use. So I'm going to do, by putting a washer on all of the screws there, you are far less likely to lose any of the washers. That's my first. Okay, now first of all, we're going to put the sides on and then the back. So we're going to start right taking this round. Now, you need to bear in mind when setting the furniture out, this lug sits towards the back of the chair. So, those two holes on there marry up with those two holes. The back it simply rests on that. So we're going to put 2 bolts in there, and then I'll flip the thing over and put the 2 bolts in the other side. Well, that's our first chair nearly completed. However, there is just one centre screw to install at the back underneath here. So I'm going to flip that over. This may be a good idea if you've got somebody that can push down against the seat. This is where the second person would be of help, because it's very difficult to pull this from underneath the seat, as I'll show you. See, the screw you've got to put down is in there. Okay, well, to put this centre screw in, what I'm recommending is doing what I'm doing, lifting the chair up with one knee, and you're going to need to pull this towards you, because getting your fingers under here is going to be an issue. So you're going to need to pull this towards you on there, and then slide the screw down and put it in place between those 2 holes. It's easier than I thought, and one person can do this job on their own, although it would be helpful if you had somebody pushing down on their seat from behind. If you rest on your knee like I'm doing, and then pull on one of these side things, you can get enough of a grip to get the screw in there. Just make sure you align it perfectly. You don't want to cross thread the screw. It's the one screw I'm not going to be able to use the electric driver on because of this bar here, so I'm going to have to tighten this up. With that screw in place, I'm pleased to say that is the first chair all completed. Everything is nice and tight. There's not any big gap around the side or the back. That's nice and tight in there. So we're going to do exactly the same with the other chair. So to assemble the other chair, simply follow the steps which I've just shown you. Then we're going to do the table. So that's my first chair done. So I'm going to do exactly the same on number 2. And the second chair goes together exactly the same as the first one did. So simply follow the process, rinse and repeat. Okay, the only bit you need a little bit of patience with is just sliding these tubes in on over the top. Now, those tubes do marry together very, very easily. Simply push down, nice and tight. Doesn't seem to have the same problem with the tubes wanting to spring out at the top, but nonetheless, I put it against the wall for ease of assembly with marrying those 2 screws up on either side inside. And there are both our chairs completely assembled with the cushions in, which I think look pretty good. Now, you may be wondering, these little black end caps, you can fit them over the screw heads, and I will do that in a minute, but it is your own preference because the screw heads are out of sight underneath the chair. However, next, I'm going to unpack the table from the box. Now, I'm guessing it's got no more fixings on there, that this comes with its own fixings and possibly tools in here. Wishing this though, as this is a glass tabletop, I believe in here. It comes out nice and easily. My tip to you would be to simply rest that glass tabletop on the top of the cardboard box when you take it off, so it's nice and cushioned. And indeed, this does come with its own fixings, own instructions, and own tools on. Now, while the furniture set comes with instructions for assembling the table itself also comes with its own separate instruction set on there and its own set of parts and arm keys. So I'm just going to open those up and cut the tags and remove the plastic off the table. Okay, well, with the plastic strapping cut off, the next job I'm going to do is just remove that plastic and lay everything out on the ground. But first of all, I've just unpacked the washers and the screws here again. 4 long screws now. 4 short screws this time. I'm going to put the washers on those as before so as not to lose. I put a washer on all of the screws, and I've set out everything on the floor in kind of a loose order on there. Now, first of all, we're going to assemble the 4 legs. I'm not going to attach to the big bit. We're going to attach them to the small bit on here, as per this diagram there. So I'm going to get on with that first of all. We use 4 of the long screws to attach the legs to this small part here, the long screws first of all. Okay, now I've loosely tightened the 4 legs. I say tighten because I have made them more than finger tight, because otherwise the thing is just going to flop around too much. Now note, the tray dips down and in here, the lugs are at the bottom, so it's going to face like that way when it was upright with the surface perfectly smooth, and the legs up there. So that's just so you're aware of the orientation of the thing. Well, is to attach the base to the 4 legs, or the 4 legs to the base. I'm going to remove that, put that to the side there, and very carefully take the glass top well out of harm's way, because you don't need to put that on until you fully assemble the table. Anyway, I'm now going to use the 4 short screws to go in the holes in there and attach the legs to the table. Just put the 4 short screws in around the base. There is a lot to be said for keeping this not fully tightened up. You want a little bit of play in there, but I had tightened it up much firmer than I did the chairs, because otherwise the thing with the 4 legs is just going to be falling all over the place like that. So 4 screws in there and tighten those up, then time to put a glass top. I've tightened the four short screws. Now I've tightened the four short screws in the base up, so I'm now going to tighten the four on the lower table. The table is now complete and ready for the glass top to go on. So I'm just going to unpack that, and the glass top simply presses down onto these four rubber suckers. Now what I did was I just wet my fingers with a bit of spit and made sure all the four suckers was slightly wet, because then in the longer run it will give the table, the glass top, a little bit more grip on the table. And you also want to find a nice level surface to put this on so that the table doesn't tip over in the wind and risk damaging that glass. There we have it. That is my PatioRoma wicker 3-piece furniture set, complete with table setup and step-by-step assembly guides, so you should be able to put your own PatioRoma wicker set together. Anyway, I hope that's been useful. If it has, then please do subscribe for more great videos to come. Thanks for watching. We hope you liked this video. If you did, then please do subscribe for many more great videos to come this summer.